Hey YouTube, I'm kind of starting to lose light, so this is probably going to be the last one that's, in daylight. Um, yeah, and by the end of today, you may all be very, very sick of seeing me. Like I said, I'm just gonna upload videos. I guess one right after the other. Or at least until I run out of ideas, whatever. In this video, I kind of wanted to talk about witches and or magic in fiction. It kind of touches on like two important aspects of who I am, and I'm sure that in one way or another you guys have encountered this, whether through reading about it or watching it on television, or here lately magic and witches and vampires and all of that has been lumped together, and it's all been kind of really mainstreamed and put in our faces a lot. And it's not necessarily a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. It has its points for both. But for me personally, I've met witches who really, really get pissed about the stereotype, the witch hag, Wicked Witch of the West kind of stereotype. I've never felt that way. I've always embraced it. I have found that when it comes to witchy drawings or characters or cartoons or what have you, you can usually fit them into one of three categories. The cute, little, adorable witch, the sexy witch, and the old crone witch. That works for me, maiden, mother, crone, what have you, whatever, that works. I have, when we found out we got this place, sorry, I'm having a really hard time with my mind and talking and all that right now, so please bear with me. I'll probably lose my train of thought and whatever my mind is doing. Anyway, when we first found out that we had gotten this place, my boyfriend and I was trying to think, like, I knew I wanted my masks and my fairies and shit here in the living room. I knew I wanted to put, like, my music stuff, like my posters and my Doors incense holder and my John Lennon, I have a New York Times from the day John Lennon died. I knew I wanted to put that in the dining room. I wanted to kind of make a rock room and then put his nerdy Doctor Who shit, whatever, in there too. But I could not decide what to do with the kitchen. And my first thought was put my witches in there. And I'm like, kitchen witch. And I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and it was so funny. I don't know if, like, we were on the same wavelength that night and he picked it up from me. I don't know. But this man, who his only connection to witches is that he's with one, looks at me when I said, what should we do with the kitchen? And he's like, put your witches in there. And he's like, and I'm like, wow, that is exactly what I was thinking. So, my kitchen has the few little witches that I have left that have not been destroyed during moves or during my stuff being left at my family members' houses or whatever. I've got like 5 left out of like the 15 or 20 I used to have, but I'll eventually build it back up. But yeah, that's what is in the kitchen. I have my 5 little witchy statues. 2 are cute, 2 are the old hag type, and one has, I think it's the ones from Kroger's that are kind of like straw, and they're kind of like the little dolls that don't have faces or whatever. One is one of those. And then I have my witch-shaped hat that says the witch is in there too. And I've seen like a million things that I would love to get to put in there, and I will one day, but for right now that's what's in there. But I've always embraced the stereotypical images. I've always found them to be, I don't know, relevant or something I could connect with in some way. So I embrace that. I know not every witch does, but I'd say from what I've seen that the majority of people do embrace that in one form or another by putting, the little dolls around the house or the little drawings on their Facebook or, whatever. We do, for the most part, seem to embrace it. I know that there have been times that movies have come out like Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter that have upset witches, and that witches in fiction and the way that we're portrayed has not always made the witch community happy. I personally try not to put too much store in any of that. I accept, I guess is the word, that if they told the truth about what it was really like in fiction, nobody would really, like, all the glamour, I guess, would be taken out of it. Because, like, I mean, it works for us and we enjoy it, but when you compare what we actually do with Samantha from Bewitched, like, that, it's not very newsworthy, you know, it's not. But, yeah, I really don't either. I really like it, and, like, the craft. I love the craft. I love practical magic. It doesn't necessarily have to be realistic for me to like it. Sometimes I do get annoyed with the fact that so often we're lumped in with things that, as far as we know today, do not exist, like vampires and werewolves. It's like, you know, you sit there and you're talking shit about something like it's fictional. We're not fictional. We are very real. But I try not to get too about it, because it is what it is. We can sit there and we can tell everybody how it really is, and we can try to do that when we're questioned about it or when we have that opportunity. But overall, I don't really put too much stock in it. I personally never thought I would write a witchy character. That was never something I planned out. That was never something I set out to do. I actually felt strongly about not doing that, because I just didn't know how to approach it, being a real witch, writing about a witch. By the way, I don't think that is terribly uncommon today. There are a few authors I've had my sort of suspicions about, like Alice Hoffman, the woman who wrote Practical Magic. Just certain things that she's written. I know she's Jewish by birth. I don't know. Like, she really hasn't come out and talked a whole hell of a lot about religion. I have always sort of thought maybe she is a witch. Nora Roberts, believe it or not, I have had my thoughts that maybe she is as well. But I have no proof to back that up. I have, you know, nothing to go on there. It's something that I thought perhaps. And I doubt that if they are, they're the only ones, you know. But I didn't know how I would approach it. Being a witch and writing about a witch, and knowing that our society would rather see Samantha from Bewitched than see me or you or, you know, the truth. Zeus, it is next door. It is alright. You may hear my dog go off. Zeus? No. No, it is okay. Hey! You may see my big ass. I gotta get him away from the door. Come on. Come on. The dogs next door are terrible influences on my dog. Point blank. Come on, Zeus. Hey, come on. I know he acts like he's just like a bad kid. He acts like he's gonna be all good and shit. And then you know damn well, as soon as you get comfortable, he's gonna freak out because they're freaking out. But I'm gonna talk until he does that again. Oh, shit. Sorry. Anyway. But, as it happened, while I was writing Beauty and the Beast, I did end up with a witch character. And she may end up being, well, I know she's going to have her own book, but I'll get to that momentarily. Oh, kids. You know the kids out there. It was I think it was like 60 degrees today, which here in Ohio, as of late, it might as well be 85. So everybody's out and everybody's psyched and, you know, closest to spring we've seen. Well, that's not true. It's been warmer a few other days, but anyway, I'm getting fucking sidetracked. I was writing Beauty and the Beast, and I had no warning that this character was going to be introduced. If you ever read the book, the part that first mentions Keela when Luke comes into the bar and he's telling Ariane, I have someone I want you to meet, she's not just a vampire, and even at that point I'm going, well, what the fuck is she? Like, you know. And Ariane's like being a total smartass, and she goes, well, then what is she, a werewolf too, or some shit like that? And he's like, no, she's a witch. And I, what? She's what? I did not. If you're a writer, you understand where I'm coming from when I say that the story does its thing, and you just go along with it a lot of the time. That was one of those times. I did not plan out Keela. I did not have any warning that that was going to happen, and I was just as fucking blown away as Ariane was when he said it, like, really. And then as soon as I wrote that, I saw in my mind, where I see all my characters and all my crazy, I saw this gorgeous vampire with these eyes that changed color with her mood. Like, sometimes they're dark green, sometimes they're light green, sometimes they're more blue. You know, she has eyes that change color with her mood. And they're, of course, drastic because she's a vampire. And just all of this fiery red curly hair. And this beautiful gown. And she's just like, I am Keela. You know, she's a crazy-ass Highlander. And, yeah, that was my introduction to that. And I knew as soon as I saw her that she was going to be my Sleeping Beauty. Part of the reason I'm having so much trouble rewriting Rapunzel is because, one, I've been here, done this, and I really, like, I still love Rapunzel very much. She will always be an important character to me, but I'm not in her mindset anymore. And I'm not, that piece of me is like, gone, grew up, what have you. And another reason for it, though, is that I want to get into Keela's story so bad. Like, I want Keela to have her voice. And, like, in Beauty and the Beast, the magic that was shown, I had to decide, okay, so, yes, she was raised a witch, and she is now, I think when Arian met her, she was like 400 years old at that point. Now she would be 700 years old, give or take a few years. So I had to decide. Here she is a vampire, which means she already has preternatural abilities to add to her magic. She was raised a witch. She's been doing this for centuries. And, you know, how would that affect her? What would she be able to do? Would she still have limitations? What would those limitations be? All that sort of shit I had to decide. And so she can do things in Beauty and the Beast, like make a fireball with her hands and just look at someone and catch them on fire and all of these fantastical things that I've never met someone who could do it. I mean, I live by the theory that anything is possible, but I've personally never seen it done. But she can do all of that because she is a vampire and because she is centuries old and, you know, all of that. When I write Sleeping Beauty, she will start out like we all started out. Of course, there will be differences. I mean, I have yet, which I'm going to do more research before I start writing Sleeping Beauty to see if I can find more, both for my own personal interest and for the book. But I have yet to find a book that can say with 100% certainty, this is how the ancient Celts would have done this. This is how the people hiding in the shadows in 14th century, you know, Scotland would have done this. So I have to kind of take what we have today, what we know, and all that, and sort of build up. Because it's not just Keela. Her mother is kind of head of a clan of witches that are way up in the Highlands. They're matrilineal. They are, you know, all these things that I would imagine a witch clan would have been like. She is not raised with that clan, but her mother, on her, right before her 11th or 12th birthday, starts training her and takes her up there and introduces her to everybody and all of that. But in that book, she will start out a mere human like the rest of us, and she will, you know, I will get into the reality of magic and of witchcraft, as opposed to the super badass, very hard to believe shit she can do as a vampire. I do feel very strongly about that. I do feel like I have an obligation as a witch to, if I am going to put magic and witches in my stories, I have to be real about it. Yes, when I'm doing it in a way that they are vampires, there is a real is a relative term. You know, but when it comes to her as a human, she will not be able to just look at somebody and catch them on fire, because it just, like I said, to my knowledge, I've never seen anybody do that, so I'm, for the time being, putting that in the realm of impossibility. But, I just think it's very interesting to see how the image of the witch changes in popular culture. In the matter of 30 years in film and TV, we went from the Wicked Witch of the West to Samantha and Bewitched, who was still a fantastical character, who was still not like we are, but who was not evil, was not, you know, something to be hated or despised. Actually, Samantha always kind of got on my nerves. I love her mother, though. Her mother is the shit. I love that woman. And her uncle. I love her uncle. But anyway, and then, 30 years later, in the 90s, we had movies like The Craft and Practical Magic, which The Craft really took it to a more realistic level. There are some things in there that I've never seen anybody do in real life, like when Nancy, uses her mind to push dude out the damn window and that sort of shit. But I could see how they could be possible. I've just never met anyone who could do it. But I just think that there is some kind of a tie between, and I've heard people say this about vampires as well, that how vampires and monsters are perceived in fiction says a lot about the culture itself and how outsiders are treated. And that may be the link. If so, outsiders are getting a big boom, between all the witch fiction and all of the vampire fiction and that kind of thing that's been just really taken off the past decade. Excuse me, my nose itched. But, yeah, I think it's interesting to look at that correlation and to hear how other witches feel about witches in fiction. Whether you embrace it, whether you were just like, fuck this shit, look at how they treat us. I'd love to know your opinions, and if you're a witchy writer, not necessarily somebody who writes witchy books, but who is a witch and a writer. I'd like to hear if you tackle the subject, how you do it, or whatever. Witches in fiction, however you want to comment and respond to that. I'd love to hear from you. I hope everybody has a beautiful week, and I hope you all remember to smile.